So over the weekend, there are reports coming out of Syria where there may have been a terrible chemical attack against civilians in a city called Douma. Now, there's a lot of graphic videos going around of people, including children, that were either killed or they're foaming at the mouth, they're struggling to breathe. And obviously, those videos have been upsetting a lot of people. Naturally, when you see people suffering, they even got to Donald Trump. I'll get to that in a minute. But I have to note that those videos were not independently verified. So we have no idea whether or not this is actually true, whether or not there was an actual chemical attack in Syria. So, nonetheless, President Trump's going to weigh in. He says, many dead, including women and children, in mindless chemical attack in Syria. Area of atrocities and lockdown and encircled by Syrian army, making it completely inaccessible to outside world. President Putin, Russia, and Iran are responsible for backing animal Assad. Big price to pay. Open area immediately for medical help and verification. Another humanitarian disaster for no reason whatsoever. So, now, isn't that interesting that this is happening now as somebody who wants to go to a war with Iran, John Bolton, is getting into office? Well, that's interesting. Again, John Bolton is somebody who wants to invade North Korea, wants to invade Iran, boots on the ground. And look, Donald Trump was somebody who earlier I gave him credit for wanting to leave Syria. And then suddenly there's a gas attack. There's a supposed gas attack. Now we got to do something. We got to do something. You know what we could do? We could actually send humanitarian supplies. Or we could accept Syrian refugees. No, don't want to do that. Look, Donald Trump is surrounded by neocons. And you know where this is going to end up. You know this is where we're going to end up. Now, let me also address what Israel is doing about this. So Israel is also bombing the T4 airbase. That's the, what is it? Syrian state news agency Sana, quoting a military source, reported that air defenses had repelled an Israeli missile attack on the Tayas airbase near the city of Homs. So now Israel is bombing. So here we have John Bolton, Israel, Mike Pompeo. They're all talking to Trump. They're obviously talking about, how dangerous Assad is and all that stuff. Look, Assad may be a danger to his own people, but he certainly isn't a danger to us. He's not a danger to the United States of America. When's the last time Syria attacked America? I'm just saying. We don't need to get involved in these wars. But it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen. We're going to go into war. We've got all these neocons. Like I said, we're going to go in. We're going to probably get more boots on the ground. We already have boots on the ground. We get 2,000 people. Donald Trump says, we'll let them pull out because mostly we were there to fight ISIS. Well, no. It looks like they're probably going to stay at least for the next 6 months, if not longer. We are going to war. Again, this is not something that I want to be involved in, but here we have an administration that basically said, oh, no, we don't want to go to Syria. We shouldn't go to Syria. We're wasting all this time. We're wasting all this money. They don't talk about the loss of life, of course. Donald Trump could hardly give a fuck about the loss of life. No, it's all about money, and we're not getting anything from there. And look, all that stuff is true if you want to make the argument based on the money and you know, the lack of any sort of end game or anything like that. Okay, fine. I tend to gravitate towards the more human costs of why we should not get involved. But nonetheless, again, if you want to make those arguments, that's fine. Donald Trump made those arguments, and now he's like, that animal Assad, big price to pay. Big price to pay. You know, isn't it funny how every time we talk about leaving Syria, something like this happens? And look, maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's not a coincidence. I don't know. But look, Assad is essentially winning his war. Isn't it weird that he would use a supposed chemical attack? I believe it's chlorine gas against his own people. when he's just about won the war? Wouldn't that be something that you would use when you're desperately trying to cling on to power? Not something where you've already pretty much won the conflict or, beat the rebels? Which, by the way, I think they're CIA-backed rebels and then they're FBI-backed rebels or some, it's crazy what's going on here. And we got both rebels that are fighting each other, and then we got, it's a mess. It's insane what's going on in Syria right now. That's why we don't need to be involved. We just don't need to be involved. Let's get out of there. Let's get out of there. Again, we don't need to be there. We don't need to do strikes in Syria. And look, isn't it funny that we've made news by not actually striking Syria? That is strange. Look, again, why don't we just rebuild our country? That's the thing. Why are we involved in all these foreign conflicts? Let's not get involved. Or if we are going to get involved, let's get involved with humanitarian aid. That's what we need to do. I don't care about getting involved in other people's civil wars. Who made us the world policeman? We made us the world policeman. But see, the problem is that this is all because of the military-industrial complex. The reason that we keep getting involved in these Middle Eastern wars, these Middle Eastern conflicts, is because somebody's making a hell of a lot of money. And that's the problem. And then, of course, we got money in politics, where we have all these defense contractors, the military-industrial complex that funds our politicians. Our politicians, of course, take that money, and then, of course, they don't want to be weak on defense, so they authorize more and more wars and more bombings, extrajudicial killings, and all that stuff. So look, I don't want any of this. I think that we should only go to war for defense. And I think that's reasonable, and I think that's rational. If somebody attacks us, yeah, obviously, of course, we should defend ourselves. But that's it. That's it. We shouldn't be doing these invasions. And unfortunately, I see it with John Bolton and Mike Pompeo and all the neocons that are, Bush-era neocons, the same idiots that got us into Iraq and that talked about the weapons of mass destruction that were never there. And then suddenly, oh, here we go. We've got weapons of mass destruction in Syria. And we need to do something about it. Well, Assad gave up his weapons. He doesn't need them at this point. He's already basically won the conflict. No. We got to get out of it. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.